Tin Hi-Fi is one of those companies that I really had a huge hope for. I have high expectations than the usual HIFI companies such as the KZs or the TRNs. They are somewhat like moondrops, though I don't think all of their products are excellent sounding, but I do expect them to perform good enough, I guess, for them to be relevant in the market. And what I would say with the Tin T5, in my opinion, they are absolutely useless. Though I would argue there is one single market that they can take over. There's a single type of buyer that they can take over, and that buyer is, if you like the KZ sound, the KZ-ZSN Pro sound, the house sound of KZ-ZSNs, you would probably like the Tin T5. It's somewhat of a lot of people asked me in this in the comment section that they have the ZSN Pros or the ZS10 Pros, and they're asking me which IM should I upgrade to. And I'd probably say like any fucking IM. Though it doesn't work for people actually like the sound signature of the KZSN Pros or the ZS10 Pros, which I do understand why. I do somewhat understand why. And that's why my reviews are mostly revolves around technical performance rather than tonal balance. That's because I would like to be as objective as possible, I guess, in my reviews. So I guess I do have an answer now. So this is basically an upgrade to the KZ-ZSN Pro line. If you really like that type of sound, that type of Hi-Fi V-shaped sound, this is viable upgrade. I don't recommend buying these, but if you really like that type of sound, this might be an option, because these actually do fix quite a bit of the problems that I have with the KZs, especially something like the CS10 and ZSN Pros. So yeah, so that's basically the TLDR. They're absolutely useless for Tin Hi-Fi IM, but they are good for the KZ IM, if that makes sense. Okay. Build quality wise and fit and comfort, they are very well built. They are made out of metal. Tin Hi-Fi always performs in their build quality. Maybe the single outlier is probably the Tin T4, and because those are built like garbage. The Tin T2s are actually built very well, and I would want to drive your attention to the 2-pin connector here. It's noticeably a very smooth type of 2-pin connector. It feels high quality. The cable is good. It's usable, I guess. It doesn't have any weirdness to them. They don't tangle as hard as the Tin T2 cables, because these cables suck. These cables don't suck. These cable feels very good. Very usable cable. The accessories you get, this is what you get. There's the box, and the box have somewhat of a high quality feel to them, and Okay, been waiting for that. So you got these type of fake Sony hybrid tips. You got the box right here, and you get a compliant tip with a set of spare filters, and this is the case. Tin HIFI usually make beautiful looking case, though useless case. They're usually very big. Though I do prefer the materials they use for the Tin T4 and the Tin P1. I think these are not as well made for the case. It's a different color, so quite interesting though. Not the materials aren't as good. For fit wise, this is probably the best fitting Tin HIFI IM they ever made. It fits very well in my. It's kind of big, kind of bulky. Maybe if you have smaller ears. Let's face it, the audio world is dominated by male listeners, and it's not because of sexism thing. It's more because of usually male. This is just like male prefer. There are more males who like audio rather than females, and that's perfectly natural and akin to our evolution. I don't know if that's the correct use of akin, but enough about that. This should fit to a lot of male ears, so I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. These do fit a lot better than the Tin T2s I have right here. The fun fact is my ears don't actually fit the T2 Plus as good as the Tin T2s, so these have, in my opinion, better fit than the Tin T2 Plus. Okay, that's it for the overall general build and comfort and everything. By the way, this unit, I forgot to tell you that this unit is provided to us by an audio store called the CSI Zone. If you're not local in Indonesia, you probably haven't heard that, or yes. So thank you so much, CSI Zone, for providing us with this IM. And I apologize for the ass whooping that this IM is going to get when I talk about the general sound. So this is, if you paid attention before, this sounds like exactly, not exactly, but it kind of sounds like the usual KZZSN type of tuning. So I would not be using them if I have them, but they actually have quite a capable driver, and we'll get that to the technical performance wise. The bass region here is boosted, it's bloated, it bleeds. It's not a very good type of bass presentation. It's not the fastest, not the most articulate type of bass. It punches hard. It has a very good dynamics. It's a very elevated bass that punches hard and good dynamics, though not the cleanest, not the fastest type of bass. So it's more really it's a bit on the slower side, so it kind of blooms. It's not the most articulate type of bass. It's not my favorite type of bass. It's kind of like, yeah, the Blonde 01 type of bass, I guess. Someone like the Blonde 03's type of bass, though it doesn't actually maybe it doesn't actually bloat as hard. I guess it kind of bleeds like the Blonde 03's, but it doesn't bloat as hard. It has just a bit more control than the Blonde 03 bass, the stock Blonde 03 bass. I guess that's it when we're talking about the bass. Let's get a bit to the mid-range, where it kind of fucks up everything in the mid-range. It's dipped, the V shape here is pretty intense here, so it feels recessed, it sounds recessed, it feels like there's a type of barrier in the mid-range, let's have a veil in the mid-range that I don't like. Vocals tend to sound dry and not engaging. It's just how the KZs usually sound like. It's not the most pleasant type of mid-range. Instruments, some instrument sounds okay, most not okay, and yeah, not the most pleasant type of mid-range. A treble region here is bright, it's sometimes sibilant, it's sometimes sharp sounding. It's not the most good sounding treble either. In terms of, this is in terms of tonal balance. Okay, we're not going to talk about details yet. So yeah, it's just a simply elevated treble region. It's not as elevated as the KZs because these do roll off a bit faster than they are, which I don't know if that's actually a good thing or not. It's not as well extended as the usual KZ treble. Definitely not as well extended as the TIN-T2s. So these actually roll off in the upper treble region, but though with the general tuning of the TIN-T5s, that is actually a good thing, because this I would not want to have a more elevated treble region, upper treble region, than they already are. So yeah, let's talk about the technical performance. First with details. This is actually quite a capable driver. If you would want to EQ these, you'd probably get roughly the same amount of details that you can get in the TIN-T2s. Though I do think the TIN-T2 still edges a bit more on detail retrieval. The stage depth in general is better. It's noticeably better than the TIN-T2s. It's actually good here. The stage feels deep. It feels layered, and it's quite wide also. It has that 3D type of stage feel instead of the usual flat stage we have in the TIN-T2s. It's about as wide as the TIN-T2 soundstage, so it's actually pretty good. And it layers instruments quite nicely also. It has quite good definition. And yeah, so in technical performance wise, actually not the worst performing IM, definitely. In coherence, it's a single dynamic driver, so of course. In transients wise, however, the bass is definitely a bit slower for my liking. However, for the mid-range and treble region, it's not as... the transients here is pretty okay. Dynamics is pretty good, not gonna lie, it's actually pretty okay. Yeah. For timbre wise, the transducer is the transducer's timbre, if you actually EQ them, they're actually pretty good. It's not a dry sounding, a weirdly weirdly dry or weirdly wet sounding driver, but due to how they are tuned, the timbre presentation, the overall timbre presentation just suck. So let's get to the comparison, shall we? With the KZs, I don't. This is basically what I'm going to say. The TIN HIFI, the T5, is basically a technical upgrade from the KZZSN lineup or the ZS10 Pro. It's far more coherent, it's more detailed, it has better sound stage, better layered, and etc. Like what I mentioned before, if you have the ZSN Pros or the ZS10 Pros and you really like how they sound, this is basically a strict upgrade from that. It's not as fatiguing in the treble region also. The bass is more controlled than the ZS10 Pros. And it fares well with EQ a bit better than those two. For the Tin T2s, I think the Tin T2 is still a superior head. I am. When I listen to the Tin T2s, they perform in technical performance wise, they perform very well in technical performance wise. However, the tonal balance is also very good. With the Tin HIFI T5, I don't think these are a solid upgrade in terms of technical performance against the Tin T2s. I think in the detail retrieval department, the Tin T2s still have the edge over the what do you call it? The T5. Fucking drunk. Yeah, so even though they are a bit better maybe in terms of dynamics and stage depth, however, for something much more expensive, like 3 times more expensive than the Tin T2s, I would argue that this is actually not worth the price jump, and it has worse tonal balance also. For transients, for speed, I still think the Tin T2 is a superior IM. These don't have that type of low definition type of low resolution type of sound like the Moondrop Arias, because the treble region there is quite a bit grainier than these. So not the worst performing in terms of technical performance, however not the best also, and these are not the best tuned for my subjective opinion. So yes, I guess that's it for the review of the Tin T5. See you next time, Godspeed.